feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Dane Moore NBA podcast. We are brought to you by Prize Picks. Coming at you Friday morning. It's November 21st, and it's the Friday pod with Kyle here today, where we try to wrap up the Wolves week with a handful of the topics from the previous week. On the show this week, it was a full week. We had Wolves GM Matt Lloyd join us on Monday. Chris Hine from the Star Tribune joined us on Tuesday after the Wolves played the Mavs on Monday night. Jace Frederick from the Pioneer Press, very popular amongst Wolves fans right now, joined us on Wednesday to discuss Jalen Clark's emergence and to talk about where the Wolves stack up in the West right now. Britt joined us yesterday on Thursday to talk about the Wolves being 10-0 against teams with losing records thus far this season and 0-5 against teams with winning records. And now we wrap up the week with Kyle. I say that this was a very full week to also note or maybe excuse the idea that next week will not be a full week. I will be out of town visiting family next week, as will Kyle, Tuesday through Sunday. So we will only have episodes on Thanksgiving week that publish on Monday and Tuesday, and then we will be off until the following Monday, which is somehow December 1st. But we do got to do a pod today. I got Kyle here with me. What's up, man?
I'm still recovering. It's been a wild week in general. Last weekend was the most fun I've ever had covering the team just because of all the stuff I got to do. And then I came back and immediately was sicker than shit. So this week's podcast has been sponsored by NyQuil, which I've been taking every night. And then last night got a little too much NyQuil, slept through my alarm, and was woken up by a phone call from Jim Peterson. So just another crazy day covering this team. But I will say, just with Jim on my mind, we have discussed and we are trying our best to make sure that after baskets are made on the broadcast, that the camera does not pan away from what Jalen Clark is trying to do on the inbounds. I learned something today. It's called a hero shot in the production, where when the player makes the basket, a lot of times the camera likes to pan to them to kind of see, them running back and what celebration they're doing, this thing. And we're trying to get away from that. And again, that's why Jim Pete is the best in the business, because he is working on behalf of the fans. It's not even a FanDuel thing. People need to learn that or remember that FanDuel is like owned by Main Street Media, whatever. But I think when Jalen Clark checks into the game, you will see the camera on the court for all the minutes, because Jalen Clark, which is not topic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 today, but he has been awesome. And we need our own Jalen Clark cam, like the Kiss cam. We need a Jalen Clark cam.
Love it. Yeah, it has kind of been
Happy Friday
Clark week. This week, I don't know. Maybe you'll want to talk about him a little bit, but I think how many minutes has Jalen Clark played this week? Maybe like 50. I think we've done more minutes of Jalen Clark talk on the show this week than minutes he's played. But
top
whatever,
8,
I love it.
I think. Good prediction by me.
Well, that's a good way to transition to some Ant MVP conversation. Which I do want to start with Ant, and I do kind of want to give you the floor here, to start, because again, I think I've done twice as many pods this week as Ant has made threes, and in all seriousness, like, I don't want to overcook this whole Ant conversation, because it has just been a handful of games. He has had a bad week. His shot has been way off, 3 for 30 from deep over the last 4 games. He's not really looked like he had the same fire, at least that he had that first week of the season, or that we saw in Portland on opening night for sure. But it was a long week, largely against bad teams. And as I said yesterday, my main take of watching Ant in that Wizards game was he just looked kind of bored to me. Mm-hmm. Which so was I. I was at the game too. You know what I mean? So it makes some sense to me, but I want to talk about this through the lens of the MVP conversation, which Jace did write a lengthy piece on at the Pioneer Press the other day. But I was thinking about our bold predictions podcast that we did about a month ago. And one of your bold predictions, you weren't predicting that Ant was going to win MVP, but we were kind of like, yeah, they're bold, right? Like something that we don't think for sure is going to happen, but we like the odds of it happening. And I think at that time, do you remember what the Ant odds for MVP were before the season started?
20-1. And
Okay,
the
it was
bold
20 to 1.
prediction of it was that
Yeah.
a year ago, it was 12-1 coming into the season. You know what I mean? So like,
Good context.
while
Yep.
he had, I mean, if you rewind a year ago, right, 13 months ago, that's before he became the best 3-point shooter in the league, you know, for that season. And he was 12-1. He adds this tool to his arsenal, makes a run, Western Conference Finals, you know, then they lose in 5. And then to come back and it's like his odds have dropped. And some of that too is just not always, as you know, the best representation of what it actually means. It's kind of where you're trying to shift the money from the books. But he had dropped in MVP odds from, you know, season 5 or whatever to season 6. And I'm guessing you're leading in. I'm guessing
that made sense. Your stance then. I forgot about that piece of it. Yeah, I'm shifting into the odds are 200-1 right now.
Yeah, I was going to say at my book, it's 100-1, but either way, he has gone from 20-1 to triple digits to 1.
Yeah, which, you know, so 7 players when I was looking at it this morning now have better MVP odds than Ant does. I guess I should read off what those are. It's SGA, Jokic, Luka, Giannis, Tyrese Maxey, Cade Cunningham, and Victor Wembanyama all have better odds to win MVP right now than Anthony Edwards does, who is at 200-1 on FanDuel, where Donovan Mitchell is also at 200-1 and Steph Curry is also at 200-1. I'm sure some of that has to do with having missed some games, right? You can only miss 17 games to even be eligible for an award. Ant has already missed 4 games this season. But that's some sort of shift in perception here externally, right? There's a whole, I guess, internally in the, you know, maybe the fan base, or again, to reference Jace's article, we're talking about it. But this is a view shared by the public. If we view, you know, sports books to be a representation of the odds of the views of the public. So I'm just, what do you make of that shift in some public perception that Ant is obviously still viewed as one of the best players in the league, still an all NBA player, but maybe not in that top 5 on the MVP ballot position that, again, we thought he might be a month ago?
Yeah, I do think we have to preface this pod as we do get ready, by the way, for Wolves Suns, biggest game of the season. Why? Because it's the Cup. And we're kind of doing the thing right now that I've talked about before with my buddy who checks his Fidelity account every single day. Like, he checks his retirement every single day, even though we're mid-30s, and it's like, it's not going to touch you for another 25 years if we make it that long. I think whether it be the schedule, Naz Reid, Anthony Edwards, we're all kind of like a little too micro right now. But I think Jace's story on Ant and the MVP discussion and just where Ant is right now. Like, I woke up this morning talking to Jim and like, the best player on the team right now is Julius Randle. And that's like a huge prop for Julius Randle, but it's also like, wait, why is it not Ant? And, you know, he was 20-1 going in that Blazers game. And then the next morning he was 18-1 after he dropped 40. So I think those markets can move, but big picture, and I think this is what Jace was trying to say, is that we are now holding him to the same level or expectations as some of those guys you listed, right? Like the Giannis's, the Lukas. I mean, that Jokic game, they needed all 50, 18, and 14, the Nuggets did, to beat the Clippers, right? And I think for Ant, since he's come back from that hamstring, it's just been a weird start to the season, right? He was so aggressive and assertive at media day of like, this is what I'm going to do. When we play the bad teams, the 10-0 against the bad teams, I'm going to give you 50. Well, then they threw 2 at him every time, any of those bad teams. And he's like, I can't do that. And I do think, I don't know if he's like, whatever. I don't know if he's sick or still nursing the hamstring, but I don't think he is the same player on the court. You watch him, forget the article. You watch him play and he doesn't look as engaged. He does look a little more frustrated. He does wear his heart on his sleeve and he does it post game and pregame. And that's part of the reason we all love him. And he's a great quote, is that he tells you what he's thinking. I think he shows you what he's thinking sometimes on the court too. And for, you know, points aside, I think he's had 3 30-point games since he's come back from that hamstring thing. But like, he's only had a double-digit assists and rebounds combined, like I think once in those last 8 games. He just doesn't, he's not playing very well, flat out. Now, is it a micro analysis? Like, it's been 1 week. Like, let's see what he does tonight against the Suns. Maybe he read all the articles too through the paywall and he gives you 38, 9, and 8, and they go to 3-0 in the cup. But I guess just big picture for me, I didn't really have a problem with Jace. Jace is always, I think, takes really deep analysis. I mean, he was looking at game logs, dude, from Tatum from like when he was 24 years old. Like, that's a lot of research. But I think what Jace is trying to say is the expectations and the bar for Ant, it's a compliment to say, okay, now we're judging you through this new filter of like top 5 guy. And through that filter, I just don't think you're living up to the expectations. And then the other side of the coin is, okay, it's been, 8 games since he came back from the worst injury he's sustained in his NBA career. Like, maybe we just need a couple more weeks. And that's what I'm kind of dealing with in my head of, I think Jace is right, but maybe I also would have, written that article 10 days.
Get a grade 1 hamstring strain, man.
But is that not the most time he's ever missed in his NBA career?
No, I mean, he's missed more. He only missed 4 games. He missed 6.
Had he missed, I guess I'm trying to say, I don't think he's missed a consecutive amount of games. Has he? And then that's just a wrong take. But he's been very durable in his NBA career. And I think that was the longest stretch of time that he hasn't been able to suit up consistently. And I don't know what that did to him. When Julius missed a bunch of time in a Timberwolves jersey, he learned a bunch of stuff and he came back in and fit in well. Ant hasn't done that so far.
Yeah. I think I agree with what you're saying about Jace's article. Is like the premise was holding Ant to an MVP standard, and historically MVPs do not have a 4-game stretch like Anthony has had this past week, right? And the article, for people who read it and didn't just like look at the tweet, it starts with, quote, MVP in a championship. Those were Anthony Edwards' stated goals entering the 2025-26 season. There was little reason to doubt his pursuit of either. The Timberwolves guard has made massive strides each season, dragging the franchise along with him in the process. So it was holding him to an MVP standard, which was also Ant, and a championship, which were also Ant's stated goals. When Jace asked Ant at Media Day, what are your goals for this season? It fits the narrative of the article and those sort of things, but it is something, Ant said there. And I just think the whole point of it, the way I thought of it, and the way, frankly, I thought of it when we were talking about this a month ago, is that I thought that Ant had elevated to the MVP ballot, which is the top 5, right? Which is really high and frankly, really impressive to do by 24 years old. And I still think he might be able to get there. I see right now 4 guys that are ahead of him there. Maybe Victor's the 5th, but he's injured too. Is he going to hit 65 games? I think Ant is still in the MVP ballot conversation, very much so. I'm curious what the odds were on that. It's that if he's still having stretches of time where he drops out and has stat lines as he did over the course of this last week, that inherently or historically takes you out of the MVP conversation, given how rarely Shai Gilgeous-Alexander does that, given how rarely Nikola Jokic does that, given how rarely Luka Doncic does that, given how rarely Giannis Antetokounmpo does that. So I tweeted out the article. I called it harsh, but I don't think the premise of it was wrong. I don't think Ant has signaled right now that his MVP odds over the course of the season should have increased. I think they should have decreased. 201 sounds a little crazy to me. I might throw $10 on that to win $2,000, like
I got you.
Yeah. Or even Donovan Mitchell, or like if the Cavs win with the East and Mitchell's crazy the rest of the way, like a 0.5% chance. Yeah. I'm shocked they've fallen that far, but I'm not shocked that Ant has fallen out of the actual MVP conversation a month into the season, given what's happened, right? Given what has played out.
I mean, it was payday for me today, and I haven't even made it to my last payday before Ant had 35, 6, and 6 against the Jazz. Right, that was 11 days ago, and they needed that 6 and 6 to help win the game and whatever. I mean, back to the Wizards game, right? Because I also think too, we do this a lot, and this goes back to my micro fidelity example of if they would have not shit the bed in the third quarter, I wonder if like what would we have talked? What would you have talked about with Britt yesterday? Because for that first half, they were killing them. And if Ant would have just made a couple plays in the third quarter, I mean, they were all bad, the whole team. And then I think Julius actually kind of saved them down the stretch in the fourth. But I wonder if our conversation would be different. I was watching that game and I turned it off at half because I was bored. So I wonder, and again, this is where you kind of have to thread the needle of, because I can already imagine the comments of like, oh, they're millionaires and they're paid like whatever. Like they're also just human beings that do get bored. And I think, well, I disagree with some of the stuff Britt's talked about with the schedule. I do wonder if they're just tired of sparring with really bad, shitty boxers and they want to get in the ring against someone who actually knows how to throw a left hook.
Sure.
And again, that's not an excuse, because the thing that does bug me is, I guess now I would split it, Jace's article or the discussion on Ant of, he's clearly in a shooting slump. Like, I don't know what your 3-point percentage were, but yeah, but he's made what, 3 of 30 in his last 4 games. But that can't let you then only have 4 total rebounds and assists. And in that fourth quarter, I actually think there were some hockey assists he had where he found guys, but you know, the best of the best, right? Like you're going to hate this, but like, I think you're as good doing NBA podcasts as anyone. But if we start holding you every podcast to the Zach Lowe, Bill Simmons, whatever levels, it's like, maybe that's unfair to you at times. Maybe you're sick. I know I got you sick. Like, you're going to have an off day. I just think what Jace is trying to say is the well-rounded nature of, hey, we need you to do the other stuff on the nights that maybe the shot's just not falling. That is something that the best of the best in the league do. And I don't think you saw it this last week. Now, again, they won all the games, right? So like I'm struggling.
Well, they lost to Denver.
Yeah, no, that would have been a big one to have. I'm still on the camp of like, oh, both Denver losses were the second night of a back.
They didn't win all the games.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
You said they won all the games.
Correct.
They lost one of those 4 games.
Okay. No, yeah, that's fair. I'm just saying, like, I don't know if I really want to like nitpick and start playing psychological stuff with any of this stuff when they're winning most of the games and it's a short stretch. I mean, I do agree the last 4 games have been really bad, but I've also watched Ant play 366 regular season games and most of them trend upward. So I wonder what this podcast is going to sound like for those who listen on Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. If he goes into Phoenix tonight and says, hey, I have a slight vendetta myself against Devin Booker, and I'm just going to go crazy. And if he gives you 18-2 tonight and they lose the cup game, then a trend is becoming a real issue. But I just think the sample size
doesn't disprove the MVP piece. I mean, if we're doing it through the context of Jace's article, the last paragraph says Edwards will bounce back at some point. It would shock no one if he scored 40 points on Friday in Phoenix. But if he can't match his peers' consistency, his current preseason goals of winning MVP and a championship feel unreachable. You know, it's all like, what are we talking about? I don't think anyone doubts Ant's ability to get 40 tonight, or what you said right there. I think what this week for me has brought into doubt is the idea that he is in the top of the MVP conversation. And I'm not going to cherry pick as many of the stats and stuff to do that and be like, Jay didn't do all these sort of things. But I do think it's true that Ant is not in the top of the MVP conversation anymore. And a big weekend against Phoenix and Sacramento, I don't think makes that take of mine be wrong.
100%. And if that's what you're saying,
that's what I'm saying. Chase's article says a different thing. We can all have different opinions on this.
I'm still on League Pass. The first time you set it up, you have to pick a favorite team. And I have 2, the Timberwolves and the Pistons from last year's Pistons pick. So I'm watching all the Pistons games. And Cade Cunningham is running circles around Anthony Edwards this season. And he deserves to jump him in this MVP discussion. And I don't know if you want to segue right now into the schedule stuff, but the one thing I disagree with Britt, and I love Britt's, like I love disagreeing with him, is he had a comment of, we don't know if the Timberwolves are good right now. Well, it's November 21st, so I don't really care. So like with this Ant stuff, if we're going to do I don't know if he's in the top 5 of the MVP discussion, it's like, I haven't even reheated the stovetop yet. Like, we didn't know the Timberwolves last year were good until March 10th. And we still didn't even, doubters had their doubts at that point too. So that is, I guess, my fidelity analogy in a box is like, I think there's sometimes like I love doing pods and we can talk about a lot of fun stuff. And this one is a little spicier too. But maybe if we just did, I used to write one article a week, maybe that would be an easier way to analyze the team, because I do think we're getting a little too micro of, are the Timberwolves any good? Is that in the top 5? Who the fuck cares? We haven't even got to Thanksgiving yet. Like, what are we doing? So again, Jace's article, I would agree too, by the way, like harsh but fair. I just love what the angle Jace takes, because if we all saw this the same way, this would not be as fun. Like, I think Britt and Chris and Jace and John do very different things, and you always pull my brain to like go in a different direction. So I don't know how much else we can beat into this whole conversation. He's not a top 5 MVP candidate. I do think it'll take more than a 40 piece in Phoenix to get him back into it. But I guess my biggest thing is I've been covering the league too for 9 years. If he gives you 2.5 good weeks of it, you think he's going to be 200 to 1, or is he going to be 30 to 1? Because he's going to be able, right?
And I think it'll move ahead of Cade. I would say that I think Ant will have more MVP votes by Cade than Cade by the end of the season. Yeah. If I could bet on that, I would. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he's moved too far out of from the top 5 if we again use those odds as rankings. But I do think he's moved out of the top 5. Let's take a break and talk about something else. Today's show is brought to you by Falling Knife Brewing Company. And tonight, Friday night, Pack Tats will be doing a tattoo pop-up at Falling Knife during this Wolves-Suns game. Yes, Pack Tats is the Naz Reid tattoo guy. When, Kyle, we did Wolves Fest before the season started at Falling Knife, Pack Tats was there for hours. Turns out getting tattoos takes a long time, and they were able to do 40 Naz Reid tattoos that evening, but I think you were there with me. The list was like over 100 people. So not everybody who wanted to get a Naz Reid tattoo that night was able to get a Naz Reid tattoo. They will be there doing that tonight, Friday night, for the Wolves-Suns game. And, we recommend going to Falling Knife to watch Wolves games amongst Wolves fans for every game. But I think especially like you can't swing it on a weekday or this and that, but a 8 p.m. start against the Suns at Falling Knife, even if you don't want a tattoo, I think that's a pretty fun way to spend your Friday night. Go over there, have some great beer, buy some Second Apron, our beer with them. That's Falling Knife Brewing Company in Northeast Minneapolis. Today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks. And with the Wolves, again, playing the Suns this evening, we have some Wolves Prize Picks we can get to. I got 2 from this game. Been looking at this, before Wolves games, and Rudy Gobert's assist number is consistently put at 0.5, more or less than 0.5 assists. Yeah. And that is an inefficiency right now that I think doesn't really recognize how Rudy is playing on the role this season compared to previous seasons. I mean, you remember, like I was talking about push shots last year, and he was taking them sometime, wasn't making them. But that's what he would do, right? Kind of in that short roll area. Was if he was left open there, he'd look to take a shot. Well, he's looking to be a passer in those spots, and we're seeing him find guys, and we can all picture that now. Rudy on the roll, kicks to Naz or Dante in the corner. Like, he's getting more assists. So I don't, if you want to juice it up with like the Demon to do more than 1.5 assists, or double boosted to 2.5 assists, like I like that. I like that too. I just don't think it's fully, Rudy is not going to be like an 8 assist a game guy. This is a Julius Randle or something like that. This is going to be a guy. I bet you Rudy, this is his best assist season of his career. I would assume that. So, take advantage of that over at Prize Picks. And then you got to choose one from the other team, Phoenix. People might not like this one, but I will say Dylan Brooks has more than 17.5 points tonight. He's playing well whenever I watch Phoenix. I watched a decent amount of Phoenix, and everyone hates him. So I think nobody picks him in these things, which means his number gets suppressed in the market, right? All these things, as we were talking about the MVP, like they're all markets. He scored more than 17.5 points in 2/3 of the games he's played in this season, and in 4 of Phoenix's last 5 games. I think Dylan Brooks probably has more than 17.5 points tonight. As a reminder, to put together a Prize Picks lineup, all you need to do is put 2 or more picks in your lineup to win. If you don't yet have a Prize Picks account, sign up, use the promo code Dane. That helps us out, but it also gets you $50 in free lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks.com, PrizePicks app, promo code Dane when you create your account.
Take a deep breath quick. I know you're going to segue into another topic, but I want to put a bow on the last one because one thing that I will say that I have just no respect for is I do think it is really fun to have differing opinions and views. And again, Jace articulately said it, like wrote it out. And then I would imagine when you have him on the pod next week, he's going to do even a better job of maybe expanding on it, just like Britt did with his article. And then you guys talk for 80 minutes. But if you don't read the article, I don't want your opinion on it. Like if you're just looking at the tweet or the headline, I know how the science goes sometimes with captions on stuff. Like you got to read the articles or listen to the pods before you reply with, judging the take or whatever. So if you haven't yet, go check it out. And then again, support the people that are covering this team, even if you don't always agree with them. I know I myself don't always agree with people's takes, but it does make for a more well-rounded view of what you're trying to cover.
Absolutely. Let's do some Naz. You wanted to do
I fixed him. I don't know. I talked to him in the locker room last Friday after we did the Matt Lloyd pod and we got in there and he just, you're there way more than I am, but I felt like watching him Friday, watching him Saturday, and then I think maybe he did post-game media Monday. He just looks like kind of the color is coming back into him, like that he's got a little more aura. I think it was Friday, right, where they beat the Kings. I know they didn't win all their games, but they beat the Kings. And then Finch said after the game, like, we need our bench to have more energy. And then Naz was like, that's probably me. Like, I'm probably the captain right now of the bench squad.
That's on me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think Naz Reid still would prefer to start because he'll make subtle jabs of like, yeah, like I've never started or whatever. But as the leader of the bench brigade, while also being the longest tenured player here, like he is one of the leaders now. I know we point towards Mike or Rudy or Joe because they're older, but Naz is a leader for those young guys. And I thought all weekend and then leaking into Monday, his play was offensively damn near 10 out of 10. Like that was 6th man of the year, Naz Reid. I think defensively it got a little better with him and Julius out there. And then obviously that ties into the Jaden and Jalen Clark pairing that they match with them. But I think it was Monday you tweeted something out where Naz was also saying like, I got to continue to be better defensively. And until it translates onto the court, like that'll matter more to me. But the fact that he's saying the right things and then backing them up, I thought has been huge because again, to the Ant stuff, he kind of no-showed against the Wizards, right? But for that first half, like it didn't really matter because Naz, and again, Julius, like I don't think we're talking about Julius enough right now, but Naz's play from the last 3 games has really given you more hope that, hey, it was only 2 weeks ago that we did the whole give him some grace thing. Well, that has translated now to on-court production.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've been talking about it all week. Massive first halves, in these last 3 games. I thought I don't know, maybe this sounds like nitpicking. I thought it's been like curious as to why his second halves have been quieter. It's still turning in like you look at the final box score, it's like 28 and whatever, awesome shooting. But what have you what theories do you have for as to why? Because it's like 3-4 straight games where it's massive first halves, and then in the second half, it's not like he plays bad, but it's just fewer shots, fewer points, those sort of things. It's like a kind of crazy juxtaposition. Do you have any theories on that or just?
Well, I have a basketball for dummies theory of games just slow down and tighten up as you get closer to the finish line. Like I always feel like first halves are just very free flowing and open, especially against these cupcake teams. And then also too, like the second half, Chris Finch, you would know this more than I do, but the substitution patterns get a little weirder, a little tighter. It's not always the same like runway of time, maybe for a Rob to be out there or whatever. But you're right. Like it's been a lot of first half cooking. Like I don't know if it was the Denver game or whatever, but it's like he finished with 19 points, but he had 17 in the first half. It's like, wait, what happened in the second half? So I think that's more of a team collective thing. I also think too, you get on a heater and then you got to sub back out and you go in the locker room, check your phone. Like he just kind of loses that. Like when you're working out, you build up that sweat. I think he kind of cools down literally. But I think that's to bring back a term like meat on the bone of getting back to him, whether it be earlier in the third quarter, because right now, I mean, again, Julius is the team's MVP, but what Naz is doing and how unstoppable he is offensively, it's a major weapon. And I think he is actually covering up a lot for Jaden's absence. It's been 1 game. We'll see if he plays tonight. And Ant's kind of on-court absence too. So they need to kind of lean into him more. He's been more of a finisher, I feel like, on plays. Like it doesn't seem like he's catching the ball and doing a lot of pound. He's coming off screens. He's getting a step back. He's kind of rolling off into the middle for that he's got that patented little floater now where he has that hook shot. So against the Suns, a team that has a lot of good wing guards, or like the Dylan Brookses of the world and Royce O'Neal, but I don't know if the Suns are going to have a ton of answers for Naz tonight. I would expect like another big Naz game. And to your point, can you replicate what you're seeing in the first 24 minutes and try to bring that into the second half as well?
Britt asked Finch about the Naz first half, second half trend after the last game. And Finch, I don't have this clip, but Finch referenced the pace and the motion kind of drying up consistently as a team in those times. And it makes sense. And you're talking about Naz playing quicker and not pounding. I think that would be my theory on that as well, to echo Finch there. And maybe we can kind of do Naz plus talking about pace and transition, because we wanted to get to that here. I think that's why Naz has probably dried up some, but more broadly, the Wolves have been playing with a greater pace, getting out in transition more often this season. Again, we talk about preseason bold predictions. That's something I was skeptical of, that I think that take of mine has aged poorly as we are a month into the season, and the Wolves are 16th in the league in both pace and transition opportunities. That sounds average. It is average, but they were 27th in that a season ago. I did ask Finch about it. This starts kind of with an answer about how Julius and Ant play best together. Finch also talks about pace here. And then I just asked him kind of directly about the pace as well. So I just wanted to context that a little bit. But here's Finch I pleased Finch on the speed at which his team is playing at this season overall.
One thing that they can maybe get back to a little bit more is playing with a bit more pace and transition, and they were really good at kind of getting into two-man actions like on the fly. Julius is outstanding at initiating that, and Ant really benefited from that greatly last year. That's one thing I think we can maybe try to tease out of our offense right now. But they have a good comfort level with each other. I don't think it's an adjustment period. So.
You mentioned tempo and pace in other answers here. Your pace numbers, transition has been up over the course of this season, but it's kind of felt like it's been in like pockets of time. What is the key to having a more consistent, elevated pace?
Well, I mean, consistent stops for one. It's easier, and just staying committed to it. But you're not going to necessarily run the whole 48 minutes. We like to think that, but not really the case. There's going to be some times where you slow down, but when you go through lulls or you're struggling to score, you got to fight the tendency to play slower. And I think at that point in time is when you really do want to emphasize running.
Generally pleased with the pace that you've
Yeah, I mean, it's not our goal to be a top 5 pace team. I don't think we're built that way.
What'd you make of that?
Well, we're talking about Naz, but just quickly, as we're talking about our preseason predictions, the pace has, I think, surprised you, right? Like where they fall in terms of like pace. I mean, they are playing at a faster speed. I don't think they're going to be bottom 5, but I thought it was interesting that Finch is like, we also know our limitations as a roster. We're never going to be top 5. But no, on the Naz stuff, I actually thought when Jaden was announced that he wasn't going to play against the Wizards, I actually thought they might start Naz. Did you have any, like, I mean, whatever, it was all moving so fast, but did you just kind of think like, okay, if Jaden's out, they'll just start Mike?
I thought it was going to be Mike. I remember actually what I did was I went to Cleaning the Glass and I did the main 4 the starters minus Jaden, and then I looked who had played with them the most.
Okay,
and it was Mike. I mean, thus far this season, kind of by a lot comparatively. Finch, I mean, Conley started when Ant was out. I think. I don't know. I think if Ant or Jaden or Dante need to miss a game and Mike is healthy, I think that'll just kind of be Finch's rule, because I also thought about Jalen Clark. If I would have ranked it of what I would have thought would have happened. I would have done Conley, Clark, then Naz. I didn't think that much about Naz in that spot, but the reason I didn't think it would be Clark is because I think Finch has started to really like the role that Jalen Clark is in, and it's been proven to be a very necessary role for this team outside of the hero cam and all that sort of stuff. Whatever. He's just like really helped the Naz and Julius minutes when Rudy's off the floor. So I don't think Finch would want to ruffle that up. You know, a lot of times we see this around the league where the sixth man will not necessarily start when one of the starters is out, right? Because they want to keep that guy in that role. So I think he wanted to do that with Jalen. And then Naz also has a very scripted sort of role in this team too, that they lean on there. Whereas Mike is, you know, they're just kind of trying to make Mike work, right? You know, it's just kind of play Mike where you can because he is a tonic to this team. And I wasn't, that's what I would have guessed when I saw that Jaden was ruled out. But you know me, like I'm all about Naz at the 3. I would love to see more of that.
I will say, I know we're pushing each other's buttons, but the diapers.com Jalen Clark cam would have also had to been edited because there was that. Has Jalen Clark been on the floor since he missed that rotation on the screen and roll when Finch came out and tried to, he barked at Jalen Clark, which I just love. But back to the Naz thing, I just
couple of dogs.
I do in the street. I do think with Naz, and I think maybe why I thought he would start is just I think there's still like an inclination for NBA players, even 6 man of the year, to just want to start. And I thought that was like an easy carrot to give him, like, hey, you've been playing well these last couple of days, and we supported you. But it makes more sense. There was Mike. And to the role part, I mean, that's kind of the bigger conversation of, I think when we did a pod a week ago or whatever, it's like, who's on the bench right now that's good? Well, now it's Naz. And I wonder if that'll trickle down to, he has a good chemistry with Rob. That's another topic, but maybe that'll help get Terrence going of just having a guy that they look up to. I know this sounds cheesy, but they look up to him off the court. That's their big brother. And I wonder if his profound play this last week will start to kind of invigorate, because they need, in my opinion, they still need Rob and Terrence and Mike or whatever coming off in that second unit to have more energy. That was a huge part of them last year with the Bash brothers. And without Nikhil, it is all now on Naz's shoulders. And again, small sample size, like everything else is right now, but 3 good games. And I think if he can continue to build off that, I would love for him to get more rebounds to help out. I'd love for him to get to the line a little more. He's like 1 free throw a game right now, but his play has really bounced back, and they needed that, right? Just like when Jaden got a pay raise, like, okay, your expectations are higher. For Naz, it's like you are now in the $100 million club. You kind of have to play like at this ish level, night in and night out, for a team that really needs bench help. And it's been a good week for him, and I would imagine it continues to kind of trend upward or stay at this level.
Today's show is brought to you by Skims, and we are excited to have Skims back as a sponsor for the holiday season. You know the drill. Skims is now available on the men's side of things, specifically men's underwear, and I promise you they would make for the most comfortable men's underwear you could gift to a family member this holiday season. My personal favorites are the Stretch 5-inch boxer briefs because they're a two-way player. Wear one pair to the gym, another pair for lounging at home. With Skims, you don't need to have different brands of underwear for different activities. And if a stretch type of brief is not your style, Skims has you there too. They also have cotton briefs, amongst many other styles. I think you should try and find a pair that works for you. Be more comfortable. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com and Skims stores, and let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. The show is sponsored by BetterHelp, and this November, BetterHelp is encouraging everyone to reach out, check in on friends, reconnect with loved ones, and remind the people in your life that you're there. Just as it can take a little courage to send that message or grab coffee with someone on your team you haven't seen in a while, reaching out for therapy can feel difficult too, but it's worth it. It's almost always one of those things that leaves people wondering, why didn't I do this sooner? We know the holiday season isn't easy for everyone, and it's important to stay connected. We're healthier when we have community and when we have support. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is one of the world's largest online therapy platforms, having served over 5 million people globally, and it works. With an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for live sessions based on over 1.7 million client reviews. This month, don't wait to reach out, whether you're checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself. BetterHelp makes it easier to take that first step. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/DaneMoore. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DaneMoore. You said they need Rob, TJ, and Mike off the bench to give them the juice. All of them?
No,
You think?
I don't think so. No, I don't.
Okay.
Well, no, because again, I can't stop thinking about Julius Randle right now. But no, I don't think they need them all. I think in different nights, right? It's kind of what you want from different guys on the bench. But I also think they need more than just Naz. You know what I mean? Like now I'm nitpicking, but it doesn't have to be all four guys coming all out and all giving you double-digit points. But I think you're going to run into situations as we talk about this cupcake schedule and harder opponents coming up. I don't think just Naz off the bench is, as a high productive guy, is going to be enough for this team, even if Ant kind of figures it out and Jaden can kind of maintain this new level. But I don't know. I don't know who I would. We're talking about odds all the time, right? Like I don't know
who do you
next,
think. Who do you think
well,
when Terrence Shannon Jr. is healthy? Who do you think should come off the bench for this team and be in the?
I think I'm just telling you what I think with no.
Yeah.
I think if Terrence comes back anytime soon, I mean, I don't even know at this point. Like those toe injuries are weird.
Let's assume he was. I think he's ruled out tonight. But if he were back tonight or next
if
week,
he was healthy, I think he would be getting way more minutes than Rob. Like I think there might be nights where Rob doesn't play. I don't think.
Who do you think should be in the rotation off the bench?
Naz, Jalen Clark, Terrence, and then either Mike or Rob. Yeah, is that? I know writing it down.
who Mike or Rob? I don't think you can.
I think it probably. I mean, if we're just transitioning into the Rob stuff, I've liked the minutes. Like I've liked. You made a really good point.
Who do you think?
Mike.
Who would you choose?
Mike.
You choose Mike. Okay.
Because I think
we just got to start there.
Right. You made an astute point about how like Rob's been really handsy defensively, and that actually picks up on TV now. Like, man, he's just getting like these little steals and stuff, which is leading to some good energy. But the Wizards are one of the worst. I mean, we've watched a lot of bad basketball, dude. The Wizards are like one of the worst basketball teams I've ever watched. And the way they defended Rob and like, please shoot. I mean, that was like scarring for anyone who watched his Kentucky film. I think Rob is doing a lot of the stuff that maybe he didn't have to ever do before, but the coaches are asking him to do. I think he is getting out in transition. I think he's playing his ass off on defense, despite being a short stature guy. He's gotten a couple rebounds, but I'm not going to say it's fear because it's not, but like, he just doesn't really want to shoot the ball. And when he does, it is flat. His shot looks different than it did in Kentucky. It looks different than it did last year when he had a couple of good games against the Celtics. Like, I just don't know if you can't shoot and you won't shoot. Like those are two different things, right? Like I can't make the basket, but I'm
or like
afraid
hesitate.
To take it. Yeah, like there was multiple times where Cam Whitmore. I think there was one where he pointed and he's like, "Shoot it!" And it's like, dude, the shifty kid from Kentucky. So I think at full strength, maybe they pull him from the rotation for 2 weeks because it's not going to be Mike. They're not going to DNP Mike like they're doing with Chris Paul for the Clippers. So yeah, to answer your question, if Terrence were back Wednesday against OKC and is fully healthy and no minutes restriction, I think the bench, it's a new type of bench brigade, right? But I mean, clearly Jalen Clark is fantastic off the bench, but I would imagine it's Naz, Jalen Clark, and then the rest of the minutes go to Mike and TJ, and Rob finds himself out of the rotation. Is that fair? Is that helping his development? Probably not. But again, like the lack of making baskets or just the lack of taking shots against the Wizards, to me in one game was very alarming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I thought so too. I'm getting to the point where I wonder if Rob is completely healthy.
Okay.
It's like, I don't know. Just in my experience, hesitation is typically a product of lacking confidence or lacking trust in your body. And the lacking of confidence one would obviously make sense. It's been, a year plus now, and he hasn't really been in a role where the team has gifted him confidence, right? It's been for reasons that we understand, it's just deep. Last year was a deep team. It's a pretty deep team. It's a tough choice between Rob and Mike. The confidence piece would make sense. And maybe that's just the answer. Maybe that's what it is with the shot. But I don't know. It kind of in that Washington game too, and some of the stuff like at the basket burst and finishing. I don't know. I'm not ruling out that he's not feeling 100% himself, and I don't know. I totally played psychologist on it, so I'm wondering. If I played doctor on it, if how like just how physically comfortable he's playing. But I bring this up with the idea of Terrence coming back at some point and Rob struggling when he's out there and kind of having his role shrunk over the course of time. I don't think he's been given the same bandwidth that he has all season. I do wonder if when TJ is back, given sort of the ascension of Jalen Clark, given that Mike Conley has settled more into whatever this bench type role is for him and he's hitting his shots, he gives them a smooth operator at point at times, that that might be prioritized. And then I think Naz obviously is a given there. I bring this all up, this whole topic that I sent you, of I wonder if we're about to move into a period of time where Rob Dillingham is no longer in the rotation, as we kind of did at this time, last season, where Rob was kind of the ninth man at the beginning, and then they cut it down to 8, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I wonder if he is now the 10th man, and they're ready to cut it down to 9.
Yeah, like objects in the mirror are closer than they appear type thing. Like Terrence is coming, and then there's also a 6'10" semi truck a little behind that of like, at some point does Johan Berenger like leapfrog Rob as well? Again, he's shooting 20% from 3 this season. He's only taken 15 shots from deep, and then he's shooting like 37% from the field. And it is just, I also am kind of tired of talking about it, just like any other of these topics right now that we're just nailing into the ground. But like, is he scared to shoot the ball because he's afraid of what the coach is going to say behind the scenes? Like, I have never, and I would hope that people think like we're plugged in. Like, I've never heard that, right? Like, I've never heard that like they're micromanaging his shot selection. But then when you watch it on the court, it's like, dude, you have to take some of those shots. And you used to take some of those shots with the utmost confidence. And I do struggle with all of the blame being on the coaching staff, because I made a funny little anecdote earlier, but like Chris Finch ran onto the court to scream at Jalen Clark. And I think he knows that Jalen Clark can take that. And I would imagine Jalen Clark tonight doesn't miss that assignment in the rotation on a pick and roll.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't, I don't think I've ever seen him yell like that at Rob Dillingham. He treats him differently, but when Josh Okogie couldn't make threes in the corner, it was bad. If Josh Okogie was wide open in the corner and wouldn't take them, that's like egregious. Like, then you can't play the player, because those shots are designed to funnel for you. And I would imagine the coaching staff's like, hey, Ryan Saunders was big, like, hey, take it. But yeah, it was one game, but he turned down looks against the Washington Wizards, Rob Dillingham, that he has never turned down before in his career. And they were good looks. And that to me is, despite all the other little things that he's doing to try to win over the coaching staff, that's why they drafted you, I would imagine, to be a little bit of a microwave scorer, for other reasons too. But
yeah, see, I wonder if they want him to be more of a passer. If that's what they're asking him to be, and less of somebody who's pursuing his shot, and that then is leading to some confusion or hesitation that we can see from the film in that Wizards game. I think confusion is just a big thing here right now, and and it's leading to hesitation, where I think Rob's more natural flow is to be looking for his shot and to be taking that kind of like funky stop, start, pull up, like mid-range shot that he took from the nail, like off of 1 foot. Like, that was his game at Kentucky when he got to that space. That's not the game that they want him to be playing with here at the NBA level. They want him to take that mid-range shot, but they wanted to step into that and take that within rhythm there, And that kind of sounds like a razor's edge sort of thing, but it does make a difference. You're going to make that shot in rhythm more often than you are when you kind of like pivot and take it off of 1 foot, right? And it's just, that's what I'm saying. Is like that's a one really small example of I think a specific time in which Rob is confused and then he's just kind of, it seems, maybe hearing something different than what is his natural state or his way of being able to play without thinking.
And I don't think anyone has been more pro this coaching staff than maybe someone like myself. But this is where, just like Jace is open to criticize and on things that are criticizable, like you said something about the confusion, then the coaching staff has to fix that, because I don't, if you wanted to draft a backup point guard that could one day become the lead point guard for this team, and you wanted him to be more of a facilitator, then like go get Tyler Kolek in the draft. You know what I mean? Like
that goes back to when the draft was versus when the Cat Julius Dante thing, which is the worst thing that ever happened to Rob Dillingham, is that the Wolves drafted him in June, and then when they needed a guy to get to the middle of the floor desperately, they were playing Jalen Noel in that role the season before, and they needed that. They needed that paint breaker. And then 3 months later, they trade for Julius Randle, specifically Julius Randle, who is, if nothing else, a paint breaker. And just the need on this team for Rob Dillingham to do that just went down. It was bad. The timing of that was not good. And I think that hurt Rob more than anything. And it is part of the opportunity cost of the Cat for Randall plus DiVincenzo plus Baron J trade, which we're all like, yeah, good deal, especially when you factor in the money, all that. I think part of the assessment of that trade now, given what we've seen from Dillingham in 100 games so far, is that trade, I think, probably hurt Rob some.
Yeah, I mean, the reason we're a year removed from you and I arguing in my office is that the Rob Dillingham conversation is so tricky. Is I hate this. I would rather just argue with you and have one side, black and white. It really is gray. Like there's two sides of it. Because if I'm the team, or I'm the coaching staff, or I'm any of the players, right? Sometimes I'll see people be like, why does Ant get a longer leash than Rob? I don't know, man, because one of them is a top 7 player in the league and has done it and has hit the big shots. And like, come on now, right? Like, why does the upper level manager at your company get more leeway than the entry level or the intern? Like, Rob is still very much an entry level employee of this organization. But conversely, if I am the 20-year-old and I know what I've done my whole life playing basketball, and now you're asking me to do something completely different, like every now and then Rudy is still allowed to catch the ball in the post and try to do a post move. Like they've gotten away from that, but all the other guys on the team are still allowed a little leeway. Like, yeah, Ant, you can take a couple mid ranges, and yeah, Dante, you can take a couple third. Like they're all allowed to do a couple things that are a little dicey, but maybe part of what their overall game is. If they're not,
Jalen Clark isn't, Terrence Shannon Jr. isn't, the young players aren't.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the Terrence thing is they're just the age.
I'm not saying that's right, but that's been a truth, I think, of Finch, right? It's just a
but they also didn't
release, less patience.
But just to be a devil's advocate, they didn't draft Jalen Clark and ask him to be a backup point guard. Like they drafted Jalen Clark and said, "We drafted you because you're awesome defensively. Go play awesome defensively." I didn't watch enough Rob Dillingham coming out of Donda Academy to be like, "Oh, they should draft him and turn him into a facilitator." Like his best skill is not being asked. I mean, isn't his best skill to score? Or at least that's what maybe they thought when they got him.
Yeah, I think it's what they thought when they got him.
You got me there. Checkmate. I'm just saying, like, Terrence's number one skill to me was getting out in transition, and he's allowed to do that. And Jalen's number one skill is playing defense. Rob, I thought his number one skill was, and to your point, like, yeah, he still probably snakes his way, like second best on the team behind Ant. Then he'll get to that free throw line, and then he'll, if he can't make those, like that is kind of his bread and butter because he's not a guy who's going to finish at the rim much. So,
yeah, that one has to go because then it opens up Rudy or Naz, on the roll. Right? The lob there. Yeah.
I feel really dumb that we sometimes can do a whole segment on like two specific plays, but I just thought in that Wizards game, I've watched it twice because I don't have a lot going on this week and I'm sick. He turned down looks that he has never turned down in his life. And if that's his confidence, it needs to be something that whoever his player development coach is, like, they really got to have a 30-minute meeting about it, because if the coaching staff's telling him not to shoot those, That's bad. Like that's on the coaching staff. And if he's not shooting them because he doesn't have the confidence, that's on him. But he has to take those shots.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be at the game in Phoenix tonight or Sacramento or whatever, but that is a question I would ask Finch and be an interesting question of Rob looks more hesitant with his shot. What do you think is, going into that? And I wish I would ask that after the last game and I could play that right now, but that's the word I'm going to use, right? Is I'm seeing Rob hesitate more often. I don't think I'm still in the camp of like, I don't totally know who Rob is or what he can be exactly at the NBA level, but I know that, or I feel that the hesitation that I'm seeing from him is preventing him from being that, and then so it becomes a question of where's the hesitation coming from? And we're just throwing stuff out there. I threw out an injury, lack of confidence. We talked about some of the coaching, the role, those sort of things. And maybe it's a product of all of them, but at the end of the day, when I rip Rob Dillingham film, I see hesitation. I saw that one time when Brandon Williams, you were at that game, pinned it on the backboard, hit guy his same height. Rob hesitated going to the rim to finish that in transition. There's a lot of clips we could play, not a lot of minutes that Rob has played of hesitation. And that just at the end of the day, you remove as much of that hesitation as you can, and I think you equally get that value paid back to you the other way. And so, yeah, I think it's fair to talk about all of those things because we don't know exactly what it is, but it's something is leading to the hesitation.
And I'm usually like the calm guy. Like I know I just ranted earlier about not knowing if the team is good through 15 games. Like, well, yeah, we still have 78% of the season left. The Rob one, if you're tired of the conversation, I only think it's going to get spicier because I don't think they have much more time to figure it out. That's my opinion. But I remember this was like a month ago, and it wasn't specifically about Rob, but Jim Pete brought up a really good point when we were talking. Kevin McHale wasted multiple years of Kevin Garnett's career by not having the appropriate point guard on the team. And I don't think the Rob Dillingham story is going to be 4 years or 4 chapters. Like if they can't figure it out sooner than later, I don't think he's going to be able to continue to like get bumps and bruises on the court. They're going to have to pivot to a different, I mean, this goes back into my concern about the point guard position, but I don't think this is like a thing of, just keep giving him time. Like, let's see what he's like in 3 years from now. I don't think they have that time. I think the trade deadline, he's going to be one of the main topics if they can't solve a little bit more of whatever it is that we're trying to psychoanalyze.
Last thing, you wanted to talk about the schedule a little bit. Let's wrap it up with that.
Did you know that they're 10-0 against bad teams and 5-0 or 0-5 against good teams? Like everyone has sent me that. I don't know. I kind of already rip the Band-Aid off. The one thing I don't like is that when we recorded a podcast around my birthday, October 7th, we looked at the schedule one day and we said, holy shit, they're going to get off to a really good start because they play a lot of bad teams.
Sure.
And then they got off to a pretty good start. And then we're like, yeah, but they haven't played anyone. And it's like, okay, well, we did kind of know that going in. And I'm not saying that I'm like, hey, man, they're a contender. They haven't really beat anyone. Like strength of schedule through the first 15 games, OKC's is first. They have the easiest schedule in the league. Then it's Phoenix, Minnesota, Denver. They're 10-0 against teams below 500, 0-5 against teams above 500. Their average margin of victory in those 10 wins is 16.5 points. Shout out to the Utah Jazz, because when you win by 40, that obviously helps the averages. But Britt's right in what he wrote, and then what he expanded on is that we don't know right now if they're any good. And my only counter is we didn't know last year if that team, we actually thought they were bad until around the All-Star team, or All-Star break. So yeah, their best win is against the Portland Trailblazers, and that was, they're a bad team right now. But I just don't know why. I guess I'm kind of just drowning here. Like, I don't know why we're so focused on it when, as Alan Horton said, they lost 12 times last year to teams below 500.
Well, let me jump in. Like, I don't, and I haven't said that they're a bad team, or because My point on this that I've been saying all week is it makes it confusing to me what caliber of team that they are. I don't mean that as an indictment. I mean that as like I don't have enough information yet to have a strong opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That goes neither direction, you know? And if it goes a direction for me, again, personally, 10 is twice as much as 5. And I've
that
seen
math makes sense.
them. Yeah, like I've seen them execute outside of the Washington game in the for 48 minutes, and most of maybe not 48, but like played at a level I've been pleased with in those 10 games against those bad teams. And I was a person in previous years who was like, they don't do that against bad teams. That's going to prevent them from being a good team. That's not what's happening right now. I don't see what they're doing against these bad teams to lead me to believe that they're not going to eventually be a team that I think is like, I feel confident of being like, yeah, I do think they are above teams like the Lakers and the Spurs and stuff like that. Like, I think I'm going to get to that point. But if you wanted me to bet or like really strongly stand on it, I don't feel like I can do that right now, especially when they've lost to a shorthanded Lakers team, 2 times. How can I come here and be like, I am certain that the Wolves are better than this Lakers team right now? I'm not certain of that. I'm certain they're not like well below that. Right. I also have been at every one of these games. Like, I understand the pretext of many of those games. It was back-to-backs against Denver. You were missing Ant and Jalen Clark in at least one, if not 2 of those Lakers games. They lost to the Knicks at Madison Square Garden, who's one of the better teams in the East. Like, I can't kill them for having lost those 5 games. I think they maybe should have won at least one of those, but
Mm-hmm.
what one? So if it was
Well,
1 and 4, it'd be okay. Yeah.
That's my thing is
Yeah.
like the Apple price went down 12 cents today. Like, am I supposed to sell the stock? Like, am I supposed to freak out? Am I not gonna be able to retire at 62? Like, I thought the Lakers loss when Austin Reeves hits the floating buzzer beater. I actually thought that was like the second worst loss of 2025. Nothing will beat the Bucks.
Remind me that one is no Ant and no Clark.
No Ant and no Clark. Yeah. So they didn't really, but no Luka, right? No LeBron. It was all Austin Reeves. He had 40 and 18 assists. Mm-hmm. And then post game, Chris Finch was like, that was on me. We put the wrong coverage out there, but that was a bad loss. Like, they fought their way back. They should have won that game. And again, I'm telling you, that's a bad loss. Almost as bad as
we've learned in time that this team is going to be in trouble against anybody
without those 2 guys.
Well, I would say if 2 of the 3 of Ant, Jaden, and Jalen are out, like, that'll happen at some point this season. And I will going into this game, like, the premise of this defense is ball control at the point of attack and filtering it into Rudy if and when they beat that. This team cannot control the point of attack without multiple high-level perimeter defenders right now. Like, I think, like, if Ant and Jalen Clark weren't playing tonight against Phoenix, I think, and Jaden I think Phoenix should be favored in that game, because I think that really creates like a crack in the ice for what this Wolves team is. And I think at the time, I wasn't talking about that as much or considering that as much after that Lakers loss. But I think in time now, with a little bit more hindsight or a little bit better understanding of this team, having multiple high-level perimeter defenders is critical for the way that this team wants to play. And they didn't have that against that Lakers team. And Austin Reeves cooked, like, that caliber of player is going to cook this team. Devin Booker would probably do that. Cade Cunningham, we were talking about, I'd be concerned about a Pistons matchup if there's only one of those guys. Maybe this sounds like I'm, making some excuses in the back-to-backs and stuff like that, but we need to factor in some of those things too, and not just go 10-0, 0-5, you know, or we're not getting the story.
Well, and again, there's one thing we need to do. Everyone listening to this, as a community, as an ecosystem, there is a difference between excuses and explanations. They both start with the same two letters, but like you're not making excuses when you talk about the fact that the Wolves have lost to the Nuggets twice, but it was on the second end of a back-to-back. That is an explanation. Now, should Ant have played better in that game at home? Yes. We've already talked about that, and we've already written about it. But yeah, back to like the record and stuff. I said last Saturday night when we recorded, I think they're one Austin Reeves buzzer beater away from exactly where I thought they'd be. If Austin Reeves back rims that, they're 11-4. And I know I sound petty, but like, that's pretty much exactly what we thought they would be if we would have gone through the schedule in October and gone wins and losses. And I bet you and I would have given a win for one of the Nuggets games and then be like, hey, remember when they lost 12 times last year to shitty teams? I bet you they lose to the Wizards. Yeah. Right. So like, I mean, maybe the biggest analysis of all this is like, we're doing too much content, which is not the answer because I love doing it, but we are
it's all right for us to all have our own thoughts of what it is. And you know, there's a Wolves echo chamber. There's many of us talking and writing about the team, and there's a lot of noise. It's a better team. Everything is so much louder, dude, than it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, right? And in that, it's okay for you or for me or for somebody else listening to this to view a limited set of data in a different way than somebody else does. You know, I'm going to get this stuff wrong all the time. I'm taking snapshots of the team every single day. And I'm trying to think about the context of all of the things, but we're going to miss them. And I would just say to anybody, you know, it's okay for you to have your thought process on this. I know there's a lot of people out there, not that work around the Wolves, that are spending a lot of time really watching this team, really looking into it, you know, and frankly, a lot of you people who are listening to this podcast, and a lot of you know basketball better than I do. And you can have those thoughts. I'm trying to understand what it is. Kyle is trying to understand what it is, what it isn't. The alternative that we could be doing right now, which I don't like to do on my show, is just skew towards giving the Wolves multiple benefits of the doubt. I want to stay somewhere towards the middle because I think that's where we find the most truth, you know, and different people have different ways of doing that. You know, I cover the Wolves. Like, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to skew a little bit that direction. It's like, we're talking about the odds and stuff like that. Throw in the juice, -110. I'm going to be 52.5% Wolves. That's what I do. But I'm not going to be 60. I'm not going to be 70. That's not fun for me. And I don't think that's very interesting. And I'm sorry if the Ant conversation at the beginning of this, because I know that's triggering to people. I'm sorry if that's triggering too. I know the Rob thing is hard for people. And a lot of people's thing is just give him 20 minutes and it would be better. Maybe you're right. I don't know. I don't think so. But I could be wrong. All we're trying to do is come here every day and tell you the story and give our novice opinions on what we're seeing here. You know, that's all this is. That's all I know how to do. And I think it would just be fine. It would be a lot better if everybody just could take a deep breath and be like, this is just what I'm seeing. This is just what I'm thinking right now. And we allow people to do that. We're talking about a basketball team 15 games in this season. Like, let's not go nuts.
This would have been the most appropriate time for me to do that coffee shop thing where I just like snap because you just went on a nice little poetry bender, but I can't snap. I can't snap and I can't blow bubbles. So it's two little facts about myself that I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that.
But I'm with you because like just a quick anecdote, but in the job I'm in right now, as soon as I got like 2 months in, I tried to quit and I was like, dude, this is just not for me, whatever. And all I needed was just more time to kind of figure it out. Like I didn't know 2 months in if this was a good career or not. And I'm just asking to like maybe keep the same energy of when Jaden came out hooping those first couple of games, it was like, dude, Jaden might be taking a leap. And then critics would be like, okay, small sample size. So we got to see it longer. Well, that same energy is like the Wolves haven't beaten anyone good. Well, they've only played 5 good teams in an 82 game season. So can't we say that's a small sample size? Like, let's see. The schedule will, as Chris Finch said Saturday night or whatever, we play who's on the schedule. The schedule now, despite a couple New Orleans Pelicans games coming up, it does get a little more difficult towards the end of this month and then kicking into December. And then there's some gauntlet stretches. And maybe that's what the team needs to wake up. Maybe that's what their best player needs to wake up. But I don't really care. I mean, we got to talk about it and we got to highlight the goods and criticize the bads. But big picture, if we've learned anything doing this for a decade, dude, it's that I don't want to say I just don't care about the team or the games or the results until the first of the year. But multiple times that has actually been the way to do it. Like you can be hypercritical in the moment or be up or down, but I know it's been a terrible week for this dude, but the D'Angelo Russell, never too high, never too low. Like that's a real way to analyze your favorite sports team, especially in the NBA where there's so many games. So yes, their diet has been mostly cupcakes and now they've got maybe some, raw meat steak on the schedule coming up. And let's see how they respond to those. But
maybe the Kings for the 4th time will prove
that might be Doug Christie's last game as a head coach. But I was the guy that was like, hey, look how far we've come, friends and stuff. And like, this is no longer a feel good story. This organization, this team, like it's just a good story. Like they're a pretty good basketball team that has some major deficiencies. And I don't think they've solved those deficiencies yet. And I think that's what makes me coming back to wanting to watch more games is like, can they find the answer, whether it be the point guard, more guys off the bench, backup center? Like that's what I'm looking for in these games right now. And they haven't answered a lot of those questions, but they're also, doing things that Timberwolves teams of the past have not done. So yes, I want to see them play the Suns tonight because I actually think the Suns are probably the team I was the most wrong on a month ago.
Yeah.
They play really hard. Like I know most people will consume this after the 3rd game of the Cup, but that Suns team didn't do a lot of sexy things in the offseason. They lost Kevin Durant and they somehow have gotten better. Dylan Brooks has way too much confidence, and that's why he'll hit your prize picks number. But they play really hard and they're well coached by Jordan Ott. And it's going to be a tough matchup tonight. Tonight will be, if they win, the Wolves win tonight, that will be their best win of the season. And if they lose tonight, it'll go down as now they're 0-6 against good teams. So they've got a couple.
And that'll just be another chapter in the story.
Yep. And the next 3 games to me are the perfect chapter because you get a meaningful game, a game that your team has said publicly, we want to get the wire transfer in the NBA Cup. Then they're going to go probably, this is just my take, probably going to get Doug Christie fired on Sunday night on a Kings team that has quit. And then they go play the Thunder. And that is the highest benchmark in the league right now. And one way or another, which is like the best drinking night of the year, by the way, the night before Thanksgiving, you're going to get a really good idea of, at this point in time, is this team as good as we think or they think, or do they still have a long ways to go?
It's so funny. I always am, this, like I always leave for this chunk of time for Thanksgiving to spend time with out of town family. Those games are always a banger. And I'm like, oh my God, how many Wizards games do I sit through the year? And then I missed the Ant dunk on Gabe Vincent game. That was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And like, I don't know. I'm missing the Wolves Thunder game. Yet I did 14 hours of podcasting on.
And we're not going to talk about it for 4 days.
Yeah, no, honestly, we'll barely even get to it because there's going to be like 3 games before 2 more games after the Thunder game before we do another episode. But
yeah, but to your point, because of the schedule, like you're going to record with Jace Monday morning, and then you and I are going to do a recap of the Kings game Monday night, not Sunday night. But the next 5 at Phoenix, at Sacramento, at OKC, and then next weekend a back-to-back Celtics, Spurs, probably no Wemby. Like, okay, that's a fun 5-game set to really start to get an idea, and maybe they get a little healthier with TJ. Who knows?
That's 4 or 5. Sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, at Phoenix Friday night, at Sacramento Monday, at OKC Wednesday, and then next weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Boston, San Antonio. Two teams missing their best player, but 2 teams that are playing really hard, especially the Spurs, keep winning games without Wemby. So the next time you and I do a Friday pod in a couple weeks, I think we're going to have almost twice as much data and takes as we did today.
Yeah, no, literally. Well, 10 is twice as much as 5.
You're hitting me with a lot of numbers
3.
today. I understand that you can't win them all if you lose one. I got that, but it's a fun point right now, and it is a pivot point. That's what Jim was talking to me about this morning. Like, okay, if your excuse for playing bad or having lapses was that you're playing too many bad teams, that stops tonight in a game that these cup games are more meaningful. And there's also a little history there, right? Like the Wolves and Suns don't really like each other, so. Let's see how they respond tonight and whether or not Jaden McDaniels can suit up.
That's a good place to end it, man. I'm liking these Friday pods. I like how it's not as,
it's nice that we just hey, let me review what everyone else's work was this week. Like Chris Hine had a birthday. Happy birthday to him. Britt wrote a really cool piece. Jace had maybe the hottest piece of the week. Johnny K probably did some cool stuff too. He's always cooking. So, and then I just come and talk about it. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah. He's Kyle Theige. You can follow him on Twitter at Kyle Theige. Me and Kyle will be back. We're going to record late after that Kings game on Monday. That'll be the last pod before the break, but also on Monday morning, we'll have Jason here. That'll be the next episode to talk about the first game off the Suns game. We'll talk about the Suns game for that one. Wow, I cannot figure out the schedule. But that's what's coming up next on the pod. Appreciate y'all listening. Those of you who, when we are doing weeks like this, doing daily shows, and you're listening to all of them, that's not the expectation, but we appreciate it. It is flattering that you do, care enough to get our thoughts and our coverage of this. And yeah, like you said, we have 78% more of the season left. Like we got a long way to go, friends.
And the Matt Lloyd pod was the one that, if you haven't listened to it yet, maybe save that for the holidays when you're driving or commuting or just hanging out with your friends and family. Because
don't miss that. Yeah,
because that one was still evergreen. Like you can listen to that today and nothing has become stale or whatever. We also put a lot of time and effort into like the production of it, but that was something. The NBA moves so fast and our lives move so fast. That's something I was very proud of. So if you haven't listened to that and you get a little thirsty,
recorded that less than a week ago. Isn't that crazy?
That whole weekend was a blur. But if you haven't listened to the Matt Lloyd pod, it's better on YouTube, but you can listen to it anywhere. And that might be a fun way to kind of get, an idea of what they think about some of the younger guys as we start to transition into the next chapter of all this. So a lot of good pods out there. But yeah, thanks everyone for supporting us. And we'll talk on Monday night, but the holidays, always travel safe. You and I are traveling, like safe travels, checking on your loved ones, and take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Until Monday morning with Jace, he's Kyle. I'm Dane. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down, yeah.